And I ain't hit no drop in a minute. No, I'm about my business.
Rappers Guide Podcast, episode 68. This is your host, Diggy
Bailz Pagliacci.
And today we wanted to talk about, first off, Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
We are here with you. We didn't quit.
No, we did not.
I want to be honest. We have jobs outside of here.
Yes, we do.
We don't get paid from this, and we're not asking for payment. So that's not why I'm saying this. But I want to be honest, and it's like, sometimes life does come before, and this speaks to music too. Sometimes life comes before the art form. And I know that that's difficult to say because we're so passionate about shit. But like sometimes we do have to take care of what's going on in our lives.
Gotta breathe.
Before we actually focus on the passion projects. And like Rappers Guide for us is a passion project. It's something that we both love doing. Mm-hmm. We love giving out free gems, and we love giving out information to people and making sure that everyone's kind of savvy. But at the same time, like, life does happen sometimes. So if you see us taking these little hiatuses, just understand, like, I get that there's these podcasts out there that they're religiously dropping, but like, they might be famous people that have other sources of income that allow them to kind of be in a room all day talking.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Bailz kind of have to get it out the mud. So I just want to let you guys know that, like, if we're gone for like a couple weeks, we're going to come back. The vision is still there. It's not something that we're like giving up on at all. But I just want you to know, like, because I remember we took like a 4-week break at one point, and someone said, "Damn, I thought you quit on us."
Like, nah, never that. We never go quit. It's just more so like, even sometimes when we do take our hiatuses, it's always good to go back and review some of that information that's, within these videos. I mean, at this point, I'm pretty sure we can say that we're thankful that we've been able to get up to, 67 at this point?
We're at 68. This is 68.
You know what I'm saying? It's like something that just started within the pandemic, like in the middle of it, and just see how it's grown so far. And, only about like, I'm not good at math, but 30-something episodes away from being at 100. It's just like, sometimes it is a little bit taxing, but at the same time, it's what we love to do. But once again, you gotta breathe sometimes.
And there's never a situation where me and Bailz are like beefing so that we don't do an episode.
Oh yeah, we never have that.
It's not that. It's always just like, I'm gonna be honest, bro, and this is gonna sound kind of like arrogant. I don't mean it to, but my job keeps on promoting me.
Get to the bag.
My career keeps on promoting me. So every time that I get a promotion, it's just more work to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more focus that I have to put into it. So it's like, I'm taking the money. I also got to take the responsibility that comes with it. So that kind of like puts a wedge sometimes in the podcast, but we're here for it. I'm thankful for every single person who listens to us. I'm thankful for the fact that you guys are hungry for the information.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thankful for the fact that we get to meet, whether it's virtual or whatever, we get to meet so many dope young artists. So like, I'm thankful for what the podcast does for us as well, because like, you guys might not know this, and this might be some like behind the scenes stuff, but it's like every time that we interview someone, we're also retaining information that they're giving. It's like, we might not know everything that they are giving us. That's why we ask the questions. Like, this is stuff that we're actually interested in too. We're not asking these questions already knowing the answers. Now, sometimes we do, but most of the time, if we're asking questions, it's because we ourselves want the information.
And that's like one of the biggest things when it comes to, this podcast and, being thankful. It's like you said before, just being able to give others that information and just being, in a sense, the source, or being able to be that open watering hole that people are going to come to, or animals are going to come to, and be able to just drink from it and just be able to build a community within it. And that's like one of the biggest things that we wanted to strive to do, is building a community. And, from the times that we see people that's commenting on certain things, and, I'm pretty sure a lot of artists probably met each other through one of our posts or something of that nature. It's just like, it's amazing to see. And it's like, sometimes things are a little bit bigger than you and you don't really realize it until it's like starts happening in real time. It's like, oh shit, I'm really a part of something special. So, it definitely helps on the podcast aspect of it, but also on the music portion of it as well. Because it's like, honestly, there's a lot of artists that I've followed, or like I may pay attention to on TikTok or whatever the case may be now, because of the podcast. So it's like,
yeah, like we're building in the community that we wanted to build in the first place. Like that's the coldest shit to me. Like that was our whole mission when we first started the podcast, was how do we build the community with this? Like, it doesn't have to be the world's biggest podcast. It just has to be a community.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're always trying to get in touch with new artists and trying to like learn from new artists and trying to teach new artists the ways to kind of get around the tricky business situations within music. You know what I'm saying? And like, yeah, I'm gonna be honest, bro. Like I'm around some people who have already gotten to that level that people want to be at. And like everyone's going through the same exact issues, bro. And you think that like it ends when you become like a major label artist or when you get a pub deal or whatever. And it doesn't. It's like there's always the next level of issues that you're gonna have to go through. Like for instance, I was at my homie's crib and he was on a conference call with I'm not gonna say any of the names of whatever, but I was there listening into a conference call, and everyone on the conference call was pretty much asking about sync licensing.
Mm-hmm.
Because these are a bunch of producers that don't want to sit around and wait for money to come in on the off chance that someone picks their beat, right? So like they're like, how do we get these sync licensing situations? And I'm sitting there listening to, you know, a major label's head of this department, head of that department, and he's basically, you know, trying to align them with all the people in the organization that can help them with that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no guarantees.
And that's like one of the biggest things, right? I think we probably touched on it a few times on the podcast, but more so than anything, when you're thinking about getting to that next level, or you're thinking about getting to that higher stature within the industry or within your peers, we're still going to feel that sense of like incompleteness that we haven't still achieved what we wanted to achieve. And once again, like sometimes when you get it, that dopamine hit, it's like, all right, I got this many streams. What's next? Where am I going to go from here? And I think a lot of times what we need to be grateful for as artists is the journey to get to those milestones. Because a lot of times we just kind of sweep that shit under the rug as the dirty work, the nasty work that we don't really want to get involved in. But at the same time, that's what makes the end goal so precious. Like being able to know that you put all that work in. And like one of the biggest things in my mind when it comes to artists who have been signed or gotten to that level, it's like, yo, they still feel the same shit that I'm feeling. So it's just like whatever in my mind that you may think, you know, is going to take you out of that feeling, it's never really going to disappear. Because honestly, when you're achieving or trying to go for something, it's always going to feel like, what's next? What's more? What am I going to do? And that's like a lot of reasons why outside of music, people like retire really late and like retire like when they're, you know, basically
Dead.
They're dead. Exactly. Because it's like, yo, I just want to keep working. Like you've met people inside your life, they just want to do nothing else but work. It's always that edge of there's something that's always going to be next. But at the same time, you have to really be grateful for the experience. And that you're even alive to be able to be an artist, to be able to find beats, to be able to put words together. Because not everybody could do it. And yes, some people may be better at it than others. But still, it's a skill and it's art at the end of the day.
Ready for one of Diggy's analogies?
Go ahead, throw it.
Every wall that you break down comes with another wall after it.
Mm.
You're going to get past the one wall that you always wanted to get past. Maybe it took time to chip away at it. And then finally you get through it. And then there's another wall there. Now in each situation, now let's treat it like it's a room. You break down that wall, you get into a room with more established people, you get more access to the things that you needed access to, but then there's another wall. And then you break in, there's more people there. Every wall that you break down comes with another wall after it. So we have to pay attention to the fact that, first off, you have to appreciate every level like he was saying, right? The people in that first room might get you to the next room.
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta treat it communal because like, if you're responsible, say it's a brick wall. If you're responsible for doing it yourself, right? It's going to take a lot longer than if you and that community that was in that room all have a tool to start chipping away at it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like we got to look at it like we're all breaking down these barriers that are set up for us to fail. You know what I'm saying? These walls are not set up for you to break them down.
No.
They're set up for you to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people get to that next wall. This is a great analogy because it's like you break down that first wall and you see the next wall and you go, fuck. I'm not ready to break down another wall, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done breaking down that wall. Maybe the first wall was just getting into recording. Maybe the first wall was just understanding different things about recording. Maybe setting up your home studio.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first wall. You got to knock that down, figure out how to record music, right? And then the next wall is like, how do I distribute this? Then the next wall comes out, you feel me? And it never ends, bro. There's always stuff that you could be learning. There's always barriers that are going to be set up for you to literally turn around and be, and I don't know if it's a universal thing. I don't know what people believe in. Whatever you believe in is fine with me. But whatever you see it as, it is set up for you to break down these barriers to get to the next level. And there's always going to be these roadblocks.
Mm-hmm. You don't play a video game and just instantly go to the final boss.
Right.
You got to get through all these levels. Like even when you think about playing like a Mario game, you got to play through all this shit to get to Bowser. Then you beat Bowser and somehow, some way he escapes, and now you got to go through a whole nother bunch of levels to go fight him again. It's like it's just constantly over and over again. And yes, eventually you may beat the game, but then Super Mario 2 comes out.
Right.
And it's the same process all over again. So it's
Right.
like it just never stops. It's like constantly how we move as people. It kind of keeps us preoccupied because if you're not doing anything, it's like, what's the point of being alive or just being, breathing at that sense? But at the same time, it's just like, once again, you enjoy those levels in between the game and you remember those times like, oh yeah, I just stepped on this dude's head. I mean, I'm just talking about Mario terms in this point, but if you're reaching a certain point in music or you're reaching a certain point that you've never seen yourself doing before and you say, what's next? That's a good thing. But at the same time, you also want to make sure that you're not losing yourself too much into it because that's when, that mental health part comes into it as well.
And I also think it applies to just life, right? Like, I always bring up Rabbits on here, but I was talking to my guy Rabbits, and he was saying, I just need this amount of money, and I just need this amount. And I was trying to explain to him that amount of money might be good for where you're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get that amount of money, then you might move out, get your own crib, this and that. Now you need more money, right? Every step up that we get comes with new goals and new obstacles. So like, you might be looking at a number right now and saying, I need that number. But that number is only good for where you're currently at. Once you get to that next step, then you need a higher number. It's the only thing that makes sense when you're at that next step.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? Like we're all trying to get to a certain number in our head. And it's because it would be special for where we're currently at. But like, you get to that million number, right? Oh, I made $1 million off rap. Cool. Now you bought a crib. You bought a car. You bought all these things. And now that money is nowhere near where it was at. And
I need to get
now
more.
you need to figure out how to get more.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you landed a Billboard hit and that paid out X amount, right? But now that money's drying up. That hit is kind of like falling back. And how do I make the next hit? You know what I'm saying? Like,
and then I'm thinking about it too, is like, I know a lot of times when we're independent artists and, we have struggles as far as like getting our music out there and getting to that next level. I don't think that we appreciate enough that a lot of people that do ascend to that next level deal with a lot more stress, deal with a lot more anxiety, deal with a lot more depression. And, you see it all throughout the times throughout music. Even like, take for example, like YK Osiris. Like I know he was like on Instagram Live or something crying about killing himself and everything of that nature. It's like a lot of times, as independent artists, you want to get to that spot where you signed and, getting co-signed by Drake and stuff like that. You see the positive side of it. And then you also see the negative side of it. And you always got to remember, once again, you got to be able to cherish that coming up portion of it because sometimes when you get to that next level, it's probably not what you thought it was. That's like you said, like the number amount isn't what you expected. A lot of the stress and a lot of the problems that come along with getting to that next level, a lot of us probably really aren't looking for, but at the same time, it's shiny. So it's like, I want to grab it. Then you realize like, oh shit, I kind of want to turn this around.
And it's something to appreciate about the work that you put in, right? Like for me at my job, right? I appreciate the fact that I busted my ass as a lower level manager to get the next management position. And then when I was there, I busted my ass as that level and then they moved me up again. Like, bro, you look back and you go, thank God I did that.
Yes.
And some of those days when you went in, you said, fuck, man, I hate doing this.
I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this.
It's so much fucking work. It's so extra, right? But like the things that you're able to achieve when you work hard are fascinating. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially with music, the things you're able to achieve, like even if you touch someone from across the world, right? Like that is fascinating that you can do that from your bedroom. And I feel like we need to appreciate that more, like the access that we have to everything.
As an independent artist, yep.
The ability to put out whatever you want as an independent artist. You could wake up one day and just make a rock record if you wanted to. And there's no one above you telling you, nah, that's not going to work.
Only yourself.
And everyone is begging for the label situation because they're only seeing the money involved. But they're not realizing that it comes with a lot of stipulations. It comes with a lot of things that are going to knock down your ideas. And you might not necessarily know what you're signing up for. Like, yo, these labels do have a say in the music that you put out because their data says that that doesn't work.
And the one thing people hate to do as an artist is being restricted to do what you want to do.
Right.
That's when you get up in arms, like, the label's fucking me over. They don't let me do what I want to do. But it's like, well, you know.
Well, it's funny because like a lot of artists now are on the entrepreneurial wave and don't realize that when you're getting signed, you're getting signed to have a boss. You're getting
it's
signed.
The opposite.
It's literally the opposite of what you think. It's not entrepreneurial at all. Even these guys who say, oh, the label's my partner and we did a partnership. That's a fucking nice way to say that the label gave you a situation and now they oversee it. There's no partnership that's like you exclusively could do whatever the fuck you want. The label will have no say in the music that comes out. It's just not, that's not how it works. And say you're signing to an artist, right? Like Yo Gotti, I forget what his label's called. I think it's like CMG.
CMG, yeah.
CMG. Okay. Yo Gotti is the final say at that label. And above Yo Gotti, there's another final say, right? But if Yo Gotti doesn't fuck with the record you just made, and you know what? There's nothing more disheartening than writing a record, penning it, putting it on wax, and then all of a sudden someone tells you, I hate that record.
Yeah, we cannot put that out.
Yeah, that can't come out.
Go back to drum board. Try again.
And you're like, because you got there by being the creative person you are. You got there by, you know, the same structure that you're still trying to run with. And now there's someone saying, I don't like that. We need to start over.
I wanted to force you over here a little bit. Let's start leaning towards this way with this. Let's leave that stuff alone. You can do that on your own, but let's focus on these type of things.
So I think that you have to be thankful of the point that you're at currently because there's so much freedom in it. And especially for you kids out there that don't have the responsibility outside of just making music. Like if you're listening to this right now and you're like an 18-year-old and you still live with your parents and you don't have bills, you don't have anything.
Gold.
Like that's the time to be as creative. That's the time to be as experimental as possible. Like when you have reached past the experimental phase of your career and now you know what would work for you as an individual, it does become more of a job. It does become more of like okay, this is my demographic. This is what I understand. This is what I need to be pushing. And once you get there, when you're penning a song, it's completely different than originally when you were just like kind of throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks. Like now you're at a point where it's like very structured. And you start to understand like, okay, this is why a pop record works. This is why a hip hop record works. This is the structure of it. Chorus, verse, chorus, pre-chorus, whatever. Like when you start to understand it like that and you're going in with a structure, like, bro, there's been times in my career where like I've been completely unstructured. And then there's other times where I'm very structured and I'll run into a producer who will be like, why do we have to be structured? And it's like, me personally, I'm a structured guy. I like structure. But I could understand why that producer says, why do we have to be structured? There's no one saying we can't do it like this. Right? So it's like, we have to be thankful of the points that we're at where we don't have to be so structured, where we can be experimental, where you can wake up one day and just record whatever type of song you want. And who knows what works for you. But like, it is important to sit there and go, yo, I'm going to look back at this and this is going to be some of the best times of my life. Sitting in a room with a bunch of your friends making music, like those are going to be some of the best memories of your life. So you have to be thankful for where you're at and stop always looking at it like, nah, I just need to make it out of here. Because, yeah, you're going to miss these times.
Because that's like one of those biggest TikTok trends was like people saying, oh, I wish more people supported my music. And then they'll show the picture of them younger selves like, oh, we're really making music or people are actually listening to us. And, you know, it kind of speaks to that. It's just like, yo, you got to really look back at where you came from and like what you really have been able to achieve. And once again, it's not an easy feat. It's like really getting somebody else to step into your world and enjoy your music or enjoy what you're presenting to the world. And that's not easy. Not everybody can do it like we always talk about. And like another thing that we need to be grateful for is just the host of information that's out there. You know, not only just coming from us, because we get our information from other people as well, and we get our information from other sources. And sometimes we may regurgitate it that it's more understandable because we're artists and we know what it feels like. compared to somebody who's just like blogging about it or just within the industry as an exec. And it's like, I'm grateful that I can know information where it's like I don't get scammed from like one of these fake pages on Instagram.
Because a couple of years ago, you might have.
I would have got scammed. Easy.
You know what I'm saying?
I didn't get scammed about, like fake Spotify plays and shit like that. Like just having information out there that like kind of set me on the right path as an independent artist is what got me to my 1 million streams all around, Without that information before, I wasn't seeing that shit. But now that the information is more available, there's less smoke and mirrors and people are being more transparent about like what the numbers are, what everything looks like. It puts you in a better position. And like, once again, I will always rather be a musician now or an artist now compared to being an artist in the 90s. As far as not knowing shit.
I think there's pros and cons to both. I think that there was more money involved in the 90s.
Yeah, back then.
I think that when there was physical copies of stuff and when there was the ability to sell out stuff, like, I think that there was more ability for money. I don't think that they had the access that we have now.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times too, like a lot of artists that they might have signed back then in the 90s, the artists that got shelved and never heard about, they didn't technically have a chance to like really get from off that shelf. But nowadays, you can do it.
Back in the day, if the label did not want to put out your album, your career was essentially done.
Yeah, it was over.
You couldn't turn around and just drop it for all the people that fucked with you. So it's like, we have to be thankful of the times that we're living in. We also have to take advantage of the times that we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just like briefly talk about the pandemic, and we talked about this on a recent episode, but it's like, bro, the amount of people who were putting in like extra effort during the pandemic only because you were able to, right? That have completely just gone away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you guys need to kick back into gear. You feel me? Like, yo, the dream can't only be alive when it's comfortable.
Yeah, when the world has ended.
You know what I'm saying? Like, when it's easy. Like, the dream can't only be alive when it's easy. If you have this magnificent dream that you're going to be this famous artist, bro, the dream can't only be alive when it's comfortable for you. Like, you have to get past that and you have to start, like, understanding that, yo, this shit is hard. It's going to be difficult. It's not going to be an easy road by any stretch of the imagination. So, like, the pandemic gave people this fake sense of like, oh, I can make music every day. And it's like now when your job's back, when you got life back and people aren't just sitting on their couch waiting for music, how do you react?
Everything looks a little bit different.
Right. But where's the counter? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you establish yourself the way that you were when you could drop music once a week because you were recording 5 out of 7 days? Like, bro, there's so many people that have just dropped off the face of the earth when it comes to music. And I'm talking about bigger scale and lower scale.
Shit, I'm technically one of them. Technically falling off from what I was doing in the pandemic compared to now. Like, I had like 16, 17 songs I dropped last year or like 2 years ago. Now it's down to like 7, 8.
Right.
Because life gets in the way and then things start getting back to normal. And I look back at those times like, damn, I should have been more appreciative and been grateful of that shit. Because it was a bunch of time it didn't feel like it was being wasted at the time, but goddamn, did it start being wasted. Now I feel like it was wasted back then.
But see, you can't look at that. You have to use that to motivate you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't look at like what you missed out on during that time. Damn, I should have been working a little bit harder during that time and establishing myself more because that you could still do that.
And it technically, in a sense, it gets my mind to I need to get back to that where I was at before, where I had the freedom to be able to do so.
Right. And it's also just like a reminder that if you dedicate time to something, because that time is still there, it still exists. I don't care. Maybe back then you had fucking 14 hours to do it. Now you have 4. But there's still time to do it because in that 14 hours, you weren't working 14
fully
straight.
On a song, yeah.
You might have worked for the 4 straight. So you still have those 4 hours to work with. But it's on you to get home from work and to work on shit.
Discipline, yep.
It's on people to have the discipline. Like, yo, if you play video games all the time, you got to figure out a way to get away from that video game for an hour and work on your shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And like, I feel like it's very easy for us to get lost in the things that we're comfortable with. And it becomes a difficult task to work on something that we're supposed to be passionate about. We're supposed to love these things, right? So it's like, yo, how much do you love it? And we always bring that up. How much do you actually love it? How much time are you actually willing to dedicate to it? And like, when you talk about it like that, you might start figuring out that you're not as into it as you thought you were.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the flip side where you're like, yo, I love this shit my whole life. So I got to get back to it, right? And you might turn off the video game and start working again. Yo, as artists, we lack discipline. It's part of what makes us great.
Mm-hmm.
right? It's part of what makes us these creative individuals who do everything, but there has to be some type of structure. I don't care if you have to dedicate 2 hours, okay, between 5 and 7, I'm going to work on music. And maybe I write a song. Maybe I just listen to beats and I find the beats that I want to work on.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to dedicate some amount of time to doing something musical if that's what you plan on doing for your career. And I'm just sitting here to tell you, like, it's not going to work otherwise.
Because without structure, everything just kind of falls down. If you have a shaky base, you know what I'm saying? It's like Jenga, you know what I'm saying? If you start fucking just picking up everything at the bottom, you don't have nothing to really solidly build on, this shit's going to be wobbly the entire time until it just comes crashing down.
Right. It's like, I mean, yo, that applies to anything. If you, like, for instance, if I don't have a career, I might sleep till 1 p.m. When there's nothing that you have to wake up for.
What's the point?
What's the point? There's no point to set an alarm. And maybe back when I was running the studio full time, maybe it was more of like, well, my sessions don't start till later. So I'll still get there and be structured at that time. But like, think about all the hours that, and I'm not one of those, like, listen, get 7 to 10 hours of sleep.
Yeah, don't try to kill yourself. It's cool to get some sleep.
Like, bro, I hate that. I hate that message of, like, you don't need to sleep this much. It's like, bro, if you want your brain to function at 100%, get some 7 to 10 hours of sleep.
And you don't want to have them nasty ass bags in the eyes.
I remember people were talking about, Donald Trump sleeps for 4 hours. He's also a fucking lunatic.
Yeah, look at him.
You feel me? So it's like, that's not a good example of someone. And yeah, he was the president, but like, he's also a nutcase in my eyes.
And most of us are not trying to become
president. And some of you people
president.
at home might love him. So I'm sorry if I just offended you, but in my eyes, he reacts like a nut. And a lot of the times, maybe if he got that extra 3 hours of sleep, he would have thought about it a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? So like,
Kanye should have went to sleep too.
What I'm saying is, sleep is necessary.
Yes, it is.
Just like food and water are necessary. You need to sleep, right? So let's factor in the hours that you can work and still get decent sleep. You know what I'm saying? Like, if that is only an hour a day because you have a job that lasts this long and you got to do this and that, like, if it is only an hour a day, make sure that you're dedicating that hour to the music that you want to make rather than dedicating it to a video game that is doing nothing for you.
Anywhere. Trust me, I know. I do it a lot.
Maybe it helps with your mental health. Maybe.
No,
maybe that's what you see it as. Like, it's like a comfort thing. It does make me feel good when I'm playing these video games. That's perfectly fine. But what I'm saying is, you're prolonging the dream.
Mm-hmm.
You're making sure that the dream doesn't happen tomorrow when you're divvying up time and you're giving more time to shit that's not benefiting you than you are to something that potentially could.
And on that note, be very grateful of the time that you still have on this planet, Earth, universe, whatever you want to call it. Because it does go by pretty quickly. And next thing you know, you're like, oh shit, where did the time go? I had so many dreams, so many aspirations. What happened? Well, it's like you weren't grateful to the time that you had and we didn't put it to good use. And as time goes on, time ain't gonna wait for you. It's gonna keep pushing. And everybody else who's gonna be on their P's and Q's are gonna keep doing what they doing. And you're gonna keep doing what you're doing. Then we always know how the outcome usually lasts. Like, yeah, granted, you could still always just randomly get a fucking hit record. But once again, if it's not sustainable, it's not built on anything, is it really worth it at the end of the day?
And I'm going to tell you, like, as a 30-year-old man, I remember being 18 recording music like it was yesterday.
Yeah, me too.
I could still feel exactly how I felt back then.
The hope, the enamor.
Like, I could think back and it feels like a memory from literally last night.
The
you know what I'm saying?
In my eye, everything.
Like, bro, I remember every part of it. So what I'll say is, like, time does move fast. And I'm not saying that to scare you into doing shit, but like, if that's what it takes, understand that, like, although these days feel long, they're not as long as you think.
No, they are not.
And this shit zooms by. I feel like 2022 has zoomed by. And I feel like I didn't do shit in 2022. I've been working. Not with music. I've been working. But I do feel like this year just flew by. And it might just be that I'm so occupied with the job, as well as the podcast. But I've been so occupied with my career that time is just going by because I'm constantly moving.
I think it's also just the post-pandemic the post-pandemic, just like kind of seeing when time was nothing but sitting in front of you. It's like, oh my God, this shit is dragging. I got to stay in my house. I have nothing else to do.
Right.
Back to the fucking cogwheel starts spinning again and you got to jump in that motherfucker and start running. Once that shit starts running, time just starts speeding up like a motherfucker. You don't know that shit even coming at you. So,
Yeah.
like I said, you guys got to be grateful about a lot of things that we do have out here at our disposal and that we do have access to. Because at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff wasn't available before. And like I said, one of the biggest things is like the information that's just available for us. And like, information is always going to be valuable. You know what I'm saying? Somebody could tell you this, that, and the third, but once you start putting them things into practice and you start applying them, that's when you start seeing results. But without the knowledge, you don't really have anything to move off of besides experimentation. And we know how that goes.
Right. All right. Well, I'm all good on that.
Enjoy your turkeys. Don't spend too much money on Black Friday. That's just a fucking whole scam.
And if you are spending money, go get the recording interface that you fucking should have gotten. Go get the microphone that you need. Go get the recording needs. Go get your better programs. Go get your better plugins. They're all running deals for Black Friday. If you need the Waves bundle, go get it. If you need the Sound Toys bundle, go get it.
Cop that shit.
Like, get all the stuff. If you're buying shit, forget about the fucking clothes.
The materialistic shit. Don't think about the Jordans. Don't think about the video games. Don't think about no fucking 70-inch TV that you're just going to watch the same shit you're always watching. Go get that equipment.
Invest in self. If you're going to invest anything on Black Friday, invest in self. And trust me, like, when you look back at it in a year, you're going to be so happy you spent that money after you've created stuff with it that lasts forever. You know what I'm saying?
And if you got the LLC like we talked about so many episodes ago, listen, man. Swipe that thing.
All right, guys. This is Rappers Guide Podcast. We're signing out. This is Diggy Bailz.
Bailz Pagliacci.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.